everything I was sensing with my partner, and she, in turn, through tears, told me that I was describing her deceased husband. Before the workshop ended, I felt this incredible urge to hug her, not for me and not for her, but for him. This was my first time doing mediumship intentionally. The rest of the day, I felt as if I were walking on air. I felt like I was on track. I was 19 years old, but I knew that mediumship or doing readings would play a big part in my life in some way. Whenever someone asked me when I first realized that I could connect to spirits or animals or energy, that moment at the metaphysical fair is one I think back to. However, it was only when I combined the realization of my empathic qualities with concerted training in mediumship that I truly became the animal communicator that I am today. In my early 20s, I moved to the United States with my now husband, and that's when I started to make genuine efforts to meditate every day. Although it was more for self-care than enlightenment, this is when I began to have some odd, unsolicited experiences with mediumship. On 2 separate occasions, random spirits connected to me out of the blue. These experiences felt different than those at the workshop I had taken previously, in that they were utterly unexpected and honestly quite uncomfortable, like an intrusion in my personal space. It was enough for me to think that maybe I should sign up for a mediumship class to see if I could learn to control this ability a bit more. So that's what I did. I took several classes in mediumship, learning to connect to the spirit world, to connect to people's past human loved ones. One day, early on in my development as a medium, I was out running errands, and I had to drive by our house between one errand and another. As I drove by our driveway, I suddenly saw an image in my mind's eye of our cat's food bowl completely empty, and I heard the words, "I'm hungry." It was so unexpected and odd because I knew our cat's food bowl had been full before I left. It seemed impossible that our 2 cats could have finished it since I'd left just a couple of hours earlier. I decided to swing by home quickly just to double check, in case this wasn't just my brain imagining things. I got home and discovered the cat's food bowl was empty, and our new kitten, Gilly, sitting expectantly next to it with a very round, full tummy. Gilly had apparently finished the whole bowl and decided she wanted more. My husband and I, having only had grazers in our past, were not aware that some cats would continue to eat as long as there was food available. Gilly taught us that lesson pretty quickly after that. When I had the opportunity to try to intentionally communicate with a living animal through one of my mediumship mentors, I jumped at the chance. I wanted to see if this was an ability I could hone and use for other people, and not just as a way for my cat to demand more food from me. I was supposed to connect to a dog, to see what he wanted to share about his life and how he was feeling in his body. I remember connecting to him, and in my mind's eye, I was immediately brought down to his front leg to the bone. Turns out he had bone cancer in that leg, and his humans were trying to figure out what to do in terms of treatment. Communicating with the dog felt so natural to me, and so easy in comparison to the other types of readings I had done before. It was such an eye-opening experience that I fell in love with animal communication immediately. I had always loved animals. I had had several special connections with pets previously, but never a proper conversation like this. So I reached out to some friends and asked if I could practice animal communication with their pets, and I have never stopped since. Animal communication and mediumship have been an amazing way for me to more deeply experience the world, and I hope that you are able to take the first steps toward practicing it for yourself. While you may not be able to achieve mastery from this book, I hope that it will help you sharpen your intuition and maybe practice a few exercises with your companion animals, animal spirit guides, or the souls of animals who have passed on. To live in this world is to be surrounded by the energies of others, and I hope this will add another dimension of understanding to your everyday life. Good luck, and if you find that this practice speaks to you, I encourage you to seek out more classes and mentorships so you can take it to the next level. Part 1. All Creatures Great and Small. Chapter 1. The Basics of Animal Communication. Even if I hadn't had any profound conversations with animals growing up, I did always feel very connected to them. I was 10 years old when my dad secretly got us a kitten while my mom was on vacation. We named her Clara, and she was the love of my life. At first, Clara was wild, like most kittens. She would literally climb our walls. But she quickly developed into an affectionate and connected companion. Clara would put me to bed every night, and during the day, she joined me on all my adventures at home. We had a large